My name is Gabino Roche, and our topic was funding approval processes for Agile projects. I guess what we're trying to figure out is, how do you go about funding your projects when they're being proposed before you start on them? And we had three ways of looking at this, three options, I should say. One was fixed cost projects. A second one was VC approach or venture capitalist approach, where you fund a little bit as you move along. And the last one was justify selling, building internally first, which was the most extreme of the three. It was basically an example where you're an internal resource and you have to actually go to other internal IT resources and offer to build products for them, and they have to buy them from you. And if they don't buy them from you, then you don't have a budget. And if you don't have a budget, you're not employed. So that's justifying your existence. So we revisited the first option, fixed cost projects, because in my case, where I work, we sell products out to some of our clients, and it has to be one fixed cost, and they want us to build something they want to know right up front. Some of the people in our group work in internal products where you could evolve and increase scope and manage scope appropriately, so it wasn't a big deal. So that's where the discussion kind of got stuck a little bit, and some of the things we talked about helping with regards to fixed cost projects were knowing your team's velocity. Sarita, I believe, brought up the term buy sprint. So change the conversation to buying sprints instead of kind of like Monopoly money. You're buying a couple of dollars worth of something. So you're measuring by time, or actually you're buying time, not scope. The other thing that we talked about is that what helps with fixed cost projects was discovery phase. Make sure you have a discovery phase so that you can have a sense of what the level or complexity of your projects. I think the general consensus was the VC approach was probably what this group had thought was the best approach. Kind of agree that you're going to incrementally fund a project as you move along. Kind of work with small releases, fund it if it meets your goals, and go ahead and fund the next set. So some of the challenges we covered in our session was global enterprise systems. Whenever you deal with a project that's global and enterprise-wide, it's very difficult to break them down into small releases, right? Another one was external bidding of project delivery. Then we had need a reliable time frame. The CFO expects more certainty from IT. They work on an annual budget perhaps, and they want to know exactly what those costs are going to be. Another dichotomy that we're faced with is sometimes you don't know until you're actually in the project what the costs are going to be and what the scope is. Then there was talk about upfront investment in the framework. And then finally we got into how to determine capitalized costs in Agile projects. Here we were specifically talking about accounting practices and how you measure your task. When you're dealing with an Agile project, you're doing requirements and construction and testing at the same time, but they only capitalize costs once you're in construction. So we were saying that maybe on your time and labor systems you can measure that on a task level if you can assign it on your project time and labor applications. Then we had a couple solutions. We talked about a new way that the PMO uses to measure projects. Again, Sarita mentioned that in her group they had a kind of a top-down approach where senior management encouraged the PMO to get Agile training. And she worked with them to convince them to leverage Agile metrics to meet their objectives. Give value in chunks, or demonstrate the value of your project in chunks. Again, kind of re-emphasizing this VC approach. We also talked about better release planning, or a better way to phrase that is delivering incremental value earlier. So showing again that value. And Timothy had talked about toll gates. Kind of like quality gate as you're going through. Maybe at the portfolio governance level, the organization still works in a waterfall fashion. So still run your projects on the Agile way, but then report back into that toll gate or waterfall fashion. And again, it's kind of like that VC approach. If you work out your releases and you say, hey, this is what we're planning. We have a 2-year project, but this is for the next 3 months what we're going to deliver. Do you want to fund it? They say yes, and then you move forward. And Jonathan had even said, hey, we're going to take this approach instead of just settling for the status quo, saying this is how we're going to run our process. We're going to break this up into chunks, and you just fund it as we move along. Finally, the last two, we had a partner with the PMO to hold them accountable. So one of the things PMO had complained about is with Agile processes, they didn't feel like they could hold the teams accountable, right? The scope keeps on increasing and whatnot, so how do you work that? Well, Tiffany had pointed out that if you say you're committing to 120 story points, one sprint, and you didn't deliver, then you're held accountable. You're red on that status bar, whatever reporting mechanism that they use. It's as simple as that, black and white. Finally, then we talked about right tools to help with tracking. And I had a personal opinion on this. I've seen in some organizations, you know, they buy a tool and they start running the process that way. And then, you know, I get in there and I'm looking at things, and we have several tools in my organization, and I ask the question, like, why are we doing this? This doesn't make sense. This doesn't even fit with, you know, there's no value in doing these additional steps. And they just, the answer is that, hey, that's the tool we're using. And this is where, you know, I basically get on my soapbox, but basically it's just figure out your principles for your organization, figure out the right practices, and then buy the tool or customize your tool to fit the practices that suit your organization. And I think that was it.
Thank you.